What are the things that you typically see when people are stuck in the grind?
There was a quote somebody gave me. If the business can't run for 30 days without you, you don't own a company, you own a job. It's the lack of processes which kills most small businesses or mid-sized businesses and stifles growth and change.
This perspective of leadership means thinking about the world, thinking about problems, the same problems a little bit differently. Otherwise, we're just going to be in a rat race. We're just round and around in a circle. And you gotta find a way to break out of that. My name's Dominic Rubino. Welcome to the show. Whether you're listening on iTunes or watching this on YouTube, you're going to get a lot of value today because I got Dave Cooper with us. We're going to be talking about how, as a contractor, business owner, you can move out of the daily grind and into leadership. He's an expert in the adoption of building technologies, how to take the risk out of being innovative, like making change in your business and in your company, and how to drive real business growth. We're going to be talking about leadership beliefs today. We're going to be talking about simple systems. I really want you to pay attention to this because there's a lot of value to be had here. Now, listen, I also want to give you an update on the Christmas water project. And for those of you who are just joining us, every year I like to do something great at Christmas. This year I decided we're going to start to have a bigger impact in the world. And so we're donating water to an open pit dump in Nicaragua. Every time you leave a like or a comment on an episode, you can use this one if you like. And it could be any comment. Then we're going to donate water to this community. And it is incredible. We're now up to almost 265 gallons of water, which is incredible because we started at 30. So we're really increasing the number thanks to you. Let's get to the episode and see what Dave can teach us. Mr. Dave Cooper, how the heck are you?
Man, I'm doing great, Dominic. Thank you for having me on the show today.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. You and I had our pre-interview, and that was supposed to last a half an hour. How'd that go?
Well, I think it was definitely longer than a half hour, but you get two gentlemen that like to, talk and help others together, and it can get a little out of control. But we'll keep it under control today, I promise.
We'll keep it focused today. Yeah.
Love it.
That's good, though. That's good. It'd be worse if I was trying to drag every topic and every nugget out of you. I think there's going to be lots today. So you and I are here to talk about sort of that leadership path, and which you've been on many times, and you've walked, you've seen. But before we get into that, let me just start off with a question that might sound a little bit abrupt.
Sure.
Dave Cooper, I mean, who the heck are you? And how is it you come to be speaking to all these forward-facing contractors all over the world?
Yeah. So just a little background. I come from, a military background, then a developer background. I was a small business and custom home builder in New England for almost 20 plus years, and everything from residential to, small mid-rise construction using volumetric modular panelization and mass timber. Right before COVID hit, we put our processes in place and we ended up selling our partnership in our business so we can move back closer to family. And then I started a podcast called Dave Cooper Live. And I always like to say it's a hobby that went terribly wrong in a good way.
In all the good ways, right? Yeah.
In all the good ways, because it was a passion project of ours on, how do we truly change how we build and think about building, so on and so forth. So, and that kind of spawned into Dave Cooper Live, which has become an award-winning show. We're also industry experts researching global innovation in the built environment. We have a weekly Dave Cooper Live show, and it's become kind of the anchor point for a dynamic community of industry leaders, really defining the next century of construction. And we'll get in, I'm sure, a little bit about what that means. But our platform really showcases how building technology can de-risk innovation, drive real business growth, and sustainable and industrialized construction. I mean, basically, Dave Cooper Live, we bridge the gap between theory and practice by convening leaders, products, systems, and creating a better built environment for the world. And on our show, most of our followers are business owners, all the way up to C-suite executives, and even the Secretary of Housing watches this show to learn about what's happening out there and how people are changing with the ever-changing dynamics of labor and costs and tariffs and all these different things that are out there. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
That's it. That's all. There's nothing else. That's just all.
Well, I'm sure there's more, but you're going to pull it out of me. So I'll just
you kind of glossed over it. And I know it was a big and important part of your life, but there's lots of other ex-service people and veterans out there. Can you give us 30 seconds or 2 minutes on what your military background was before we go into everything else? Because people are thinking it already. So we might as well hit that.
The haircut. Well, listen, I think, so when I graduated high school, and I'm going to date myself here, back in 1989, I wasn't the best student. I wasn't really meant for college right off the bat. And the honest God truth was I was standing in front of a judge, and the judge said, Dave, You're going to get on a bus today.
Wow. Okay.
You're either
You
getting
had
on
that
bus.
story?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
You're either getting on that bus or you're getting on that bus. Now I was already on the delayed entry program, as we called it back, when. And yeah, sure enough, I got on the military bus, and it was the best thing I did for myself personally, right? Because it taught me so many things, to include respecting myself and respecting others, but also what it means to be part of a team, part of a system, understanding systems and how things operate. But I did 10 years in the service. I have multiple tours, Southeast, Southwest Asia, under my belt. And I was a combat medic.
Oh, you're a combat medic.
I was a combat medic. Yeah. Combat medic. And, I always say the military, when you're in, you hate it. You love it, but you hate it, right? Because it's just one of those things. When you're out, you miss it so much. But I've had my worst and my best times, even to date, outside of marrying and my kids and everything else, right? In the military, just from when you're miserable, I'm sure you have buddies. You went out and did something stupid when you were young.
But remembering, like they call it enjoying the suck.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. Yeah. You miss that. There's an adrenaline rush that comes with it. But we love to do a lot for the veterans even today. And, we work with several organizations to help promote what they're doing. But did that. I got out of the military. I'll just give you the quick synopsis here, and moved to New Jersey. Got a job with Johnson & Johnson. I was training neuro and orthopedic spine surgeon, spinal implant techniques for J&J. In other words, I was the OR guy with a laser pointing at, what screw to put where, and because the trays of equipment are so big. September 11th hit. I was at the World Trade Center. I was a survivor and a rescue worker, being a combat medic, and I served my time there for the first 4 days until FEMA came and kicked out all the non-certified, NYPD, accreditations and all that out. And I had a aha moment. I'm like, man, I just don't like what I do anymore. And I got into flipping apartments in Jersey City. Then became bigger. Yeah. It didn't happen overnight. I had to make because it was still, I had my income coming in. But I just didn't want to be around the bodies and the guts and the medical side anymore. After September 11th, it kind of changed my mind. I'm done with this. I need to do something that, gives me different purpose and different meaning, and made the switch to construction.
I'm going to, I don't know how else to say this. I'm going to whisper a very loud thank you first from everybody listening, because I'm sure we're all thinking it. So first, 2 thumbs up on that. And then we're going to go past it, because I'm going to take this into the reinvention area, which is really what you and I help people do, right? Look at the world from new perspectives. What was it like for you thinking, hey, I've got to see the world in a new way? What was it? Where did you have to change first? Was it in your heart, your head, your skills? Like, where did that transition have to take place first?
I think it was more in my heart. I was already kind of on the way out of my mind coming out of the medical field. And the reason for that was, you start losing your ability to care. And when I say that, not care for people or what you're doing, but in that industry, it was straight commission. I could get called in for a trauma, maybe a motorcycle accident, young kid broke his neck. I'm in the operating room. I brought all my trays in, sanitized, sterilized them. And all I need is that doctor to just touch one screw, just get it dirty, and I get paid, because you're straight commission. Right. You're there for 6-7 hours during these surgeries, and it never happened. Right. Maybe, the young kid passes on the table. And I remember this was the changing moment for me. And then September 11th just sped it up. But that was a changing moment. I was so mad that I spent hours on end. I made $0 because he never touched the equipment. And as I walked out past the waiting room, and that kid's family was sitting there, and I was pissed off. I didn't make. Sorry, I don't mean to swear. I was upset that I didn't get to make some money. And then it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, what am I doing? I've just been in it too long, and it was time for me to make a change. And I grew up as a stick framer, in the summer times with my uncle and walking sill plates. And I always said, I ain't doing this when I get older. It's cold in Pittsburgh, and that's kind of how the change happened. So I was already in the process of it. So it was kind of my heart wasn't in it anymore. And then that was an awakening moment where I said, you know what, I'm just going down the wrong path.
It sounds like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm going to ask you this, but challenge me back. It sounds like you came to a place where your values were not, you weren't able to live your values. And if that's true, how have you reinvented yourself to do that now?
Sure. No, absolutely. my values changed because I couldn't believe I was thinking the way I was thinking. It's not who I was. It's not why I got in the medical field to begin with, right? I wasn't the one saving people. I was making money off the people that were doing it when I got out of the service. Housing was something that I always grew up in my family always said, you're providing memories for people. You're building communities, housing for people to live in, whether it's a 800 square foot ranch or a 5,000 square foot, colonial or large building. And I wanted to have meaning, and I wanted to be able to do something with my hands that I could build it, and then I can hand the keys to somebody, because a lot of people don't have that in this world, where you can see something happen from nothing, all the way from selling it to building it to them moving in, and then them inviting you over for Christmas or New Year's parties because they're just so happy with,
on
how
that
everything
back
went.
deck with that outdoor kitchen that you built. It's so funny you say that, or so interesting that you say that, because the hard part, if there's any hard part about what I do now, is I don't see anything built. I was a stick framer as well.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as cold where I did it. It was raining all the time, just all the time. You're always clean just because you're just getting rinsed all the time. But at the end of those days, I was tired, but I'd walk away from the job site and be like, we just put up a second floor, or I worked on that roof and I could see it. Well, now my desk is dirty or it's clean. My inbox is full or it's empty.
Right.
And that it's not the same feeling. And that identity shift, coming back to your values, is what I was trying to zero in on, because I think a lot of times people are surprised when we start business coaching with them, and the very first conversation we have is, what are your values? And then I could see the bluebirds floating around their head. They're like, oh, there goes Rubino talking about values. But it's everything, right? It's my internal operating system, what my soul tells me I need to do and see in the world, right?
Yeah. It is. It's the value and mission, right, is everything. That's even in the military. And, knowing what your core values are on what you do, what you don't do. We talk about it on the podcast, and I just made a little slip up there a minute ago, right? Is, hey, listen, we're not here to talk about politics and solving the world problems. We're not here to curse and, get the beer crowd in there, right? What are your values as a human, and what are the values of the people you like to work with and help with? And how can I become a servant leader? Right. Those are like some of my core values. Like, how do I give back and give more? Not only as a small business person that's in the grind every day, but also that business person that figured out how to step out of the grind every day and bring more value to more people, because I learned to change my role on how I was doing it to grow something bigger than I had myself. But then the responsibilities changed to the people that were helping me build that company and their families, right? So it's just it's still there. It just changes a little bit.
It changes a bit, yeah. Well, we evolve, right? People are listening to people came to this show and maybe your show thinking, well, I want to run a better construction company. And here are you and I, leaders in the industry, talking about our values, our morals, and we haven't even talked about estimating or profit margins at all, right?
Right.
Yeah. Are you running a very busy cabinetry or millwork shop, maybe even closets? You're already in the $2 to $4 million range, and you're trying to find ways to get up to that $5 to $10 million range. But at the same time, you realized you're not profitable. You're working extremely hard. You've got a pretty good team around you. You've got lots of business, and at the same time, you're still not making money. Well, you're probably ready for something that we call the Profit Pack. It is 5 coaching documents that I'm going to share with you here. Just send me a text and I'll shoot them off. There's nothing to hide. I need you to have this information so you can grow, so you can finally put money on the table for you and your family, so you're not always the last one paid. Does that sound fair? 5 documents in this package. So I also want you to put some time aside on your calendar to go through the documents. Figure out which one you need to do first and which one you can do last. Figure out which one's going to have the most impact and which one is a supporting document to help you do that. There's 5 in here, 4 PDFs and 1 Excel spreadsheet. You need this document. You need some sort of guidance. If you're already at that revenue level, but you're not profitable, something's missing. And I can tell you what I know already. It's not your effort, because you're probably the hardest working guy you've ever met. So now we just got to get you sharp and focused on the right things. Grab the Profit Pack from me, shoot me a text. You'll find it changes things for you. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853. I would be proud for you to have this and grow your business. Actually, today, the topic that you and I landed on is how to get out of the daily grind and into leader mode. And maybe we should learn a little bit more about you and how you've done that yourself, so that we can all figure out where this conversation needs to go. You do, what do you call it? Volumetric construction?
well, modular, volumetric, panelized construction. Most of the bigger companies use panelized. Some sort of small, builders as well. But yeah, we were doing modular and volumetric construction before it was cool. My whole life was telling people as to why it's a better way to build, and and I still believe it to this day. But getting out of that grind is, we all get, me personally, but I believe we all get to a point where you kind of got your hands on, your elbows on your desk, your hands on your head, and you're like, what? There's just too much coming at you at one time.
Yeah.
Too much coming at you at one time, to the point where you can't manage it. You can't be good at anything. And then you start sitting there thinking, like, what do I do? Like, how do I fix this? But you still got to keep doing what you do before you can.
And then the world becomes a series of 6 and 8 month sprints, or you can't call it a sprint, because the weight on somebody's shoulder, that 6 or 8 months is, we took on this job, renovation or kitchen cabinet or roof, whatever it is, the big construction project, and it's going sideways, and you think, okay, I'll just get through this 6 months and then I'll work on building the business.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in that?
It took me years. Yes, I know it very well. In fact, it still makes my heart palpate when I think about that time in my life where I knew either I'm staying what I'm doing and I just love it and I'm okay with it, or do I want to grow? And that was kind of the changing point.
Yeah. So what did you do? Let's talk about that, because that's the order of the day.
So for me personally, I ended up getting a mentor in the industry, somebody that has taken what I have done and put systems in place and systemized approach and volunteered my time to work with them and understand it, but also not compete against them, because we're in different industry. Though we ended up working together years down the road because of changes in market and all that. But the first thing I did is you can't figure it out on your own. It's not run your business, run your family.
You can't live long enough to do that.
And I was my own problem, and that's what I didn't see as well.
Oh, tell me more about that. What do you mean? That was my own problem, and that's what I didn't see as well.
I can fix it. I can handle it.
Oh, because you've been the fix-it guy for everything.
The I, or no, you're doing that wrong. This is how I would do it person, versus somebody having a better way of doing it, but I've always done it this way, and being able to let go of that control gets very difficult.
Right. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna ask you to counter me. You're a podcast host. You can interview me for a second just to keep this.
Yeah.
The reason that I get mentors, or the reason I look for outside perspective, is not because I don't know the answer. I need somebody to help me talk it out loud and hold me accountable, and then come back in 2 weeks and say, did you do it? What about now? How do you feel now? And not how do you feel? How do you feel about that situation? Or are you reacting the way you thought? And then continue to move through it. But if I just have a great thought on a Wednesday and I let it go, it's gone. Yeah. I need somebody there, that mentor you were talking about, to help me continually talk it through, put a little action in place. Put it in your hands.
Well, and so Dominic, I kind of, I agree with you, but at some point I'm going to ask you this, since you said I can interview you now.
I got to then formally take it back from you at some point too.
It's just one question. There's so much on the plate that you need to change, because I agree, what has to happen. Right. It's the implementation and the accountability of how you make that happen. And where do you start is the hardest part for most people. And how do you not try and eat the whole elephant at one time? How do you take a bite out of the elephant that sets you up to take the next bite and the next bite and the next bite? And I think that's where, having a mentor and a coach, and this isn't a sales pitch for what you guys do or anything like that. It's real world. Like, if I didn't have that accountability and somebody to sit there and say, they're both good ideas, but this is why I would do that before this, because this, and then they can explain to you how that sequences out, because we know what we need to do, right?
Yeah.
How did you know what you needed to do? I mean, it just, because there's roadblocks the whole way. It's not that easy.
The whole way. No. Yeah. So are you asking me that question?
I am.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to have to take this back from you in a second too, because I'm supposed to be interviewing you. But you know what? I go back to the strategic plan helps me figure out my priorities.
Yeah.
There's the first thing. And I only need a handful of priorities, just 1 or 2, maybe 3 things. So as long as I'm working towards those 3 things, I'm fine. But something has to come first. And the hard part is realizing something else has to come second, third, and fourth, because they start lobbing in, oh, what about this? What about that? And I've got to, if I don't know what my true priorities are for growing the business, then I start to get head faked by the other ones. So I just got to keep going back. What was number 1, 2, and 3? Am I moving towards those every day?
Yeah.
Did that answer the question?
It does.
Did I earn 100%. My right to take control of the interview.
You listen, I give it full control back. I want to be interviewed. Let's go.
You know, one of the things you said earlier struck me when you were talking about the pride that you and your family had in construction trades. One of the things, I have two shows, right? There's two different shows. We're all in construction and contracting, but one of the shows is for home remodelers.
Yeah.
What I'm about to say goes true for them. And the other one is for people that make cabinetry or do millwork or even closets. And the thought that I always put on the show is this, is the work we do is the last thing people see before they go to bed and the first thing they see when they wake up. And so we may not think we have an impact. You're like, oh, I just did an addition on that house, or I built their kitchen cabinets, but you're actually built into their environment. It's the air they breathe. It's everything they live around and where they're safest at home, you know? So I agree with you. The stuff we do really is important. It really is. And we owe a duty of care. You know, just come back to even selling these jobs. If you're not getting me to be your contractor, I feel bad for you because I don't know who else your contractor could be if it's not us.
Right.
You know,
100%. That it is so true. And you hear that as a contractor and those listening, you hear it all the time. They want a different direction, you know, faster, cheaper, whatever the case is. And at some point, it always comes back somewhere along the line, right? Especially if you're a true business person with the right mindset, the right culture, and the right values on how you build, you know, somebody's project, regardless of what it is, makes all the difference in the world. And sometimes there's a cost with that because you also value your business and how much you should get paid for that.
Yeah.
So it gets hard.
That's right. So let's talk about getting out of the grind. Let's get back to me interviewing you here.
Let's do it.
All right. What are the things that you typically see when people are stuck in the grind?
So, I mean, there was a quote somebody gave me. If the business can't run for 30 days without you, you don't own a company, you own a job, right? And I think most people, again, get stuck in the day-to-day grind and don't take the time, whether it's just picking one thing and saying, I'm going to approve this process. It's the lack of processes which kills most small businesses or mid-sized businesses and stifles growth and change. And I think it's that ability to step back and figure out, all right, one, who's going to help me? How are they going to help me? Or two, what's the simplest thing I can change? AI is helping a lot of people with some of that now, right?
Yeah. And well, how are you using AI to help you with that?
Oh my goodness. I can put together a show in, you know, like half the time, if not hours, let alone, you know, days of writing. Cause I can sit there and say, hey, this is what we talked about. What kind of questions should we go through? How should I write this up? How can I use this to get more views on YouTube or LinkedIn? Like what keywords are people searching? And it takes that manual research out of it so quick.
Yeah.
From a construction standpoint, I mean, estimating wise,
I was just going to say estimating. I think it is not used enough in estimating because we can train the model. And if it can help me, well, let me ask you, why do you use AI for estimating?
So you get a set of blueprints, right? You know, you print them off, the architect engineer sends you a set of plans and you got to price out and estimate this plan. You can now scan with AI if you have the software. It'll scan that entire blueprint and categorize and break down every 2x4 outlet that is on those plans. And then all you have to do is verify the information.
Right. You can't trust it 100%.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the accuracy level is getting better and better and better and better, right? Daily. And I think that's the biggest side to that. The other side that I see, contractors and businesses using this is as a voice of reason. As a leader, as an industry, you can train AI and say, this are my values. This is what we do. This is how we estimate. This is why we do it. You know, here's where I am. Here's my margins of returns. You know, lumber prices going up next month. What's the option? You know, like you can use it to help you hedge your bets on where your pricing is, as well as, you know, what the market's doing. And I think that's really the value. But for me, time-wise, it's getting all that information off paper, if that's where it is, or off the computer in an organized format that you can manage quickly and easily and verify versus
so good
building everything from scratch, which a lot of people still do.
Right. They do it from their experience or from their gut. They say, I'll just use a dumb number. This is going to cost $10,000 or $100,000. And then they go and make the project fit that instead of doing it from building blocks. Right. Think about it this. I'm trying to convince people to find a way to start to put AI into their business. That's not what you and I are here to talk about, but you have to if we're ignoring technology, It's like ignoring computers back in the 80s.
Right.
You could fight it for as long as you want, but we're all using them today, right? Same with cell phones. If it would normally take me 10 hours to do an estimate and I could cut that down to 6 hours to do an estimate, why wouldn't I do that? I'm still going to do work and I'm still going to do the smart work, but something else. There's another tool that can do the heavy lifting. We were just cleaning up my parents' garage and my dad had a bunch of saws, hand saws,
Right.
tons of them from when he was doing construction, just like I did when I was a kid. And I looked at them and I thought, you're not going to sell these anymore. Like they're just normal saws. They're not collectible. They're just saws. But how technology has changed for saws to now it went corded and now it's cordless. Why would anybody buy a saw unless it's for art, put it on the wall, maybe paint it and do something for that? But it's the same thing as if you're not using technology, you're going to just be stuck behind. Who would show up to a job site with a hand saw to do framing or finishing?
Right.
You're just not going to do it.
Yeah. The Amish.
The Amish. We have lots of Amish listeners, by the way.
Yeah.
Especially on the cabinetry show.
Yeah. No, in all honesty though, I actually have some Amish contractors working on our house, right? Because that you just said it, their craftsmanship is beyond.
Yeah.
But I will say, the guys here, they still use hand saws for certain, because we're doing some custom cabinetry and miter work. They're not zipping through it with something. So yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the technology side of it, if you're not using it, if you're not staying up on it, even as a small business, you're going to start getting left behind. It's just that powerful and that fast.
Hey, are you running a custom cabinet or high-end millwork shop? You're doing at least over $2, maybe $4 million, and you realize you're chasing too many of the wrong deals. You ever been in that situation where you win a deal and think, uh-oh, what did we miss? Or you think to yourself, am I going to hate my life for the next 6 months? Well, we have a system for that. It's called the Estimator SOP. And the reason we built it is so that you don't have to be involved in every decision, but you still have a hand in what deals are getting looked at and what deals are getting ignored. Super easy to get that from us. Just text me the word Estimator SOP and I'll send it off. You know my cell phone number. It's 315-903-7853. If I'm in leader mode, this is really why you're here, is to talk about your leadership perspective. If I'm in leader mode, what am I doing? And then if you don't mind, what am I not doing anymore? If I'm truly operating in leader mode.
Yeah. So the biggest lesson I learned is, following the numbers from a leader, because that's how you should run your business, based on the statistics and the numbers, and don't always hedge your bets. I think they call it robbing Peter to pay Paul in this industry, right?
Yeah.
But as a leader, you're really a curator of all things. You're the glue, you're the decision maker, but you're not the sole decision maker. And I think that's where things need, a lot of people need to understand that the people that work with them, for them, have a lot of great ideas and a lot of ways to improve them. Your job is to help guide the ideas, guide the improvements, guide the business, and focus on, how do I make sure, Jimmy, my carpenter, is eating next month as well with my new job, right? Not as the salesperson, so to speak, but a lot of times that's the first role you should be looking at, is the business development side, and handing off the in my world, that's how we did it, handing off the site work side and the masonry and all of that. But a leader has to set the tone, has to set the culture, has to set the mission, has to set the vision. And then your job, which is the hardest job, is to how do you get people to buy into what you're doing?
Right.
Because if you're going to grow your company, your team has to believe in you, the mission, and where you're going with it.
It's incredible that you landed on that, because really you and I have spoken 1.5 times. We did the pre-interview and now we're here. So that's 1.5, right?
Your math. Yeah.
It's my math. Yeah. But the buy-in part gets overlooked so often.
Yep.
And I've mentioned this before, but I don't know if you ever heard this analogy. I'll talk about it from my perspective. When I'm in front of my team, I'm like, hey guys, I just read this great book over the weekend. Here's what we're going to do. And I talk about some idea or some concept that I learned in the book. I used to be the guy at the back of the room going, just wait till Wednesday, he'll forget.
Yeah.
Right. And then next Monday, the leader of the company is up there. I read another book and here's what I think we're going to do. And some great idea would hit, but I never got buy-in. I just always had a new idea. And so I trained everybody to stop listening to me, because I always had a new idea. We never implemented it. We never got it done. And we became a company of great ideas and no implementation. I would rather be the company of one decent idea, very well implemented.
Yeah. But that comes down to the mission and what your company stands for.
The mission. We're back to the structure and discipline that you learned.
It is. It's about, right. So if there's one idea, what is the one thing you want to be known for? and then build your entire culture around that one idea that you want to be. Now, I know there's several parts in those ideas on how you get there. But to me, you being a leader means, you're not swinging hammers anymore, right? Your job is solely that vision, that mission, that buy-in. Because when you get the people to buy into whatever that is for your business out there, that one thing that you can all get behind and they all love and agree, whether it's sustainability, whether it's you're the next green builder, or you have a non-carbon cabinet, or whatever the case is. That's where you get the buy-in to the people that want to start pulling in the same direction as you.
It's interesting. I didn't count, but how many times you've just said buy-in in the last minute and a half. Do you have a story or an example of how you had to get buy-in in place in one of your companies?
Let me think about that for a second. I think it's in everything that I do. It's even what I do now, right? The buy-in side, and it comes down to culture and your values, right? And again, the buy-in is part of the values, and part of the values is the mission. You can't say it enough. It's all the same. And then you have a business plan, right?
Yeah.
So that's based around those values and mission and culture. So for instance, you'd have, and I'll try and put it back in when I was a builder. I wanted to step out of what I was doing day to day and start trying to be a leader, sell more business, put accountability in place on the job site. Where are my checks and balances on the job site, right? And how do you get the buy-in on that job site where you've been there every day and you say, hey, correct that. No, listen, what do you mean you cut that a quarter inch? Or you drop the plywood, you owe me a case of beer, whatever the case is, right? This is how it works on a job site. And then you step away from that, and then you find out all these little things that you used to touch on weren't working. So, all right, so who do I go to? Who's getting the promotion to be the person that oversees that on your job site?
Right.
And how do you get them to buy into that without paying them more? It's
not a business podcast. It's okay to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean you don't pay them more, but a lot of times when you're trying to make this expansion, you're doing it on a tight.
Well, I need my people to step up and do their job. I can't think for them anymore.
Right.
Right.
But you can't approach it that way. Right. You have to paint the vision of where you're going. Hey, listen, you've been with me all these years. This is where we're growing. I want you to be a part of that. I don't want you to be an employee. I want you to be a solutioneer, or whatever words you use, right? I think employee is the worst word in the world, because nobody wants to be an employee, or he works for me, or she works for me, right? I think it's just demeaning to do that to people when you're at the dinner or whatever. How do you start with respecting them and getting them to buy in to say, this is why I'm doing it, not just do it.
Right.
I'm doing this so I can work on this. And if you help me with this, we're going to grow together. And if we grow together, let's make a path for you to grow with us. That's how I ended up learning how to do it. How do I give the buy-in where I maybe don't have to put out money right today, but people want to know where they stand and where they can go.
Yeah.
Is there a future for them? They get older, they have kids, they have family, dynamics change. If you're going to grow a business, you have some good people. Maybe you don't, maybe you do. But if you have a good person, I've always been taught, when you find somebody good, figure out what they're the best at, and don't get rid of them.
Yeah.
Figure out a way for it.
Unused talent is one of the tenets of lean manufacturing. And there's some people listening are going to say, well, we don't believe in lean manufacturing because we're not sorting peanuts and whatever. But unused talent, underutilized. Sorry?
I said, we use lean manufacturing in the offsite world big time in the factories.
Everybody should be using lean.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody should be at least open to other models to learn from them and make your own models that work for you. Everybody, including me. But underutilized talent. I'll tell you, one of the things I like to do to get buy-in is, I probably already know the answer, but I'm going to ask everybody else for what they think. And the problem with me has always been that takes time. I don't want to ask Dave an answer that I already know the question that I already know the answer to. But I'm going to do it because I want you to work through it with me and hopefully come to very close to the same conclusion, right? We got this problem. We got all this drywall on the first floor. It needs to get to the second floor. We got this problem. We got cabinets on the truck. They need to get up to the second floor, whatever it is. Just talk to the team and say, hey guys, how are we going to do this? And they're not going to say, well, we could, hope for a magic genie. Or, they're going to say, well, this and that. And then when I get buy-in from the team, I'm like, okay, that's a good plan. Let's do that. Even though it was probably the plan I had in the beginning, it's a different thing when I get people to take ownership of the plan, because then it's their idea.
100%.
Yeah.
People don't like to be told what to do. Some people do, but most people don't want to be told what to do. They want to be part of the process. I have a really cool story on something that, a factory owner did, Diego. He had what he called the $100 idea. Now, this isn't a factory. It could be a $20 idea or $10 idea. And he'd always have a $100 bill in his pocket. And anytime somebody on a job site or in the factory or anywhere found a way to improve what they do and the efficiency of how they do it, they got a $100 bill. If they implement it as a practice in the business or the policy or at a station, they're doing, works in a cabinet line just the same, right? Because people have good ideas.
Crew, same as in a renovations crew. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's called and then, man, we love it. Here's $100. And some people are making thousands of extra dollars a year just, because they're having so much fun innovating different ideas that the boss loves, right? So to speak. So I didn't mean to sidebar it there, but I think it's a great tip for people to show value in other people.
And if what you've done there is put some great ideas in people's minds who are now asking the question, how could I do that? Maybe without walking around with 100 in their pocket, but have some way of doing that.
Yeah.
That is going to change the buy-in and the culture in the business, right? And there's lots of ways to do that. We talk about them here on the show all the time. Getting buy-in from our team. I tell you, people are investing in softwares, especially the larger companies. There's always some ERP or some sort of CRM, some big estimating program that we've got to put in place. And of course, there's resistance because we've always done it this way. Why do you want to change now? Well, I've done this in my own companies. I forgot to get buy-in from my team. And I come in, I make this big announcement. We just bought this new CRM. And they're all like, yeah, Dom, that's great. Fake smile. Can't wait to use it, Dom. And guess what happens? The CRM tanks, not because the CRM is bad. The CRM's like any other CRM. They're all the same. The same. But I didn't get their buy-in on it. So I'm going to encourage everybody out there, listen to what Dave said, listen to what we're talking about here, because we're guiding you through a potential problem in the future.
Get everybody on your team, and part of the solution. It's what makes the companies go forward.
What am I going to learn when I tune into your show? I almost said if I tune into your show. When I tune into your show, what am I going to learn?
So, our show is all about highlighting people that are building it better, whether it's construction processes, whether it's technology, ERP, CRMs, right? AI, the built environment, fully robotic, housing manufacturers that are in this country now. 400,000 square feet. AutoVol's one. People could look it up if they want to see, what true innovation's starting to look like and how they're building. But our show is really geared for business leaders to be able to see what's happening in the market, not just here in the States, because we travel the world doing this and we travel factories and job sites around the world, for them to be able to stay ahead of what's happening and how do we truly make a change. I always say you could be the CEO of Pulte Homes or KB Homes or any of those big, unless you're doing something better, you're not coming on my show. We're an invite only. Nobody tells, we have some sponsors, but nobody tells us who to have on the show. I have your competitor on the show, and we do our shows live versus, a recorded thing. And we do that because, hey, the Kardashians, people love them for a reason, right? Reality TV, like it's just live, and people like that side of it. But if people tune in, if you're interested in the industry and what's happening in the industry, not only on the technology, construction, and finance side, but also building science, sustainability side, then that's why you're tuning in. If you truly want to learn about those things. Now, if you're just a consumer DIYer, my show will bore the living daylights out of you, right? Because we're not teaching you how to cope a different way or do anything like that. But if you're a business owner, and you're always trying to stay on top of what's happening in the world and how it's changing, then that's really what our show is all about. Us bringing value to all of our listeners out there by showcasing people that are doing different things.
Yeah, I want to ask this question, and you can redirect me as you need to, but let's look forward to, it's 2026 right now. In 10 years, it'll be 2036. I just did that math off the top of my head. What are we going to be talking about in 10 years in the industry of construction, contracting, subcontracting? The owners that we're talking to today, what are we going to be talking to them about in 10 years?
Yeah. The built environment's changing very, very quickly, right? I mean, there's so many regulation changes from sustainability, green building, not enough labor, right? Everybody's struggling, not enough skilled labor that's out there, new codes coming in, all of these different things. And, 10 years from now, I think you're going to see a big push on, as a business owner, how can I do more with less? Unless my kids don't want to play Fortnite and make money for a living and they want to go back on a job site or back in a factory, what am I doing? How do I continue to do what I do? And why I started, this podcast is, something has to change. How do we change? My kids can't afford a house, and I'm going to get back to the right. That was the mission behind this. Like, we wouldn't have so many people sleeping on the streets if what we were doing was working. It's not working. There's homelessness around the world, not just here in the United States or in Portland or in Canada. It's around the world. So we're getting to this tipping point where we can't afford houses. As a builder or a cabinet person out there, prices have gone up, hundreds of dollars a square foot versus $50 a square foot back in the day to build something, right?
Yeah.
So what are they going to do, and how are they going to do it with less, unless there's a big insurge of trades again, which we're seeing a little bit. I think so. That's kind of really what we focus on Dave Cooper Live as well. It's just, these are what other people are doing. This is how we're using a factory built environment. It's not taking jobs. That's what a lot of people, electricians, plumbers out there, it's not taking your jobs.
It's not taking jobs.
Yeah, you may do less work on a particular site because some of that's done in a factory environment, but now you can do more with less. You can do more jobs at the same price point to tie all that into the local utilities, ... And if you don't have the skilled labor, you can do a whole lot more with less, because you now have a factory of 400 people that are supporting you when things aren't right. Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I see the future going. So we're going to see technology is going to play a role, but I think construction techniques are going to play a big role as well.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have to change, building materials, methods of construction. That's all going to change. Yeah. But we're not here to hear my predictions. We're here to hear from you. Hey, if somebody wants to find you in this big wide world, how the heck do we find you and find out more?
Yeah, well, you can go to our website, davecooper.live, right? Is the best place, or LinkedIn if you want to DM me and you want to chat. Just go to my LinkedIn page, Dave Cooper Live. If you just Google Dave Cooper Live, you'll find us.
Yeah, that is. We don't even have to respell that. If they can't spell Dave Cooper, you get one or two tries to get it right.
Yeah, and on the website, it's davecooper.live. There is no .com.
Perfect. Well, Dave, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. We went in some directions we probably didn't think we were going to go in, but I think it was valuable as well, because this perspective of leadership means thinking about the world, thinking about problems, the same problems a little bit differently. Otherwise, we're just going to be in a rat race. We're just round and around in a circle. You got to find a way to break out of that.
Yeah, all day long. Dominic, this is a real pleasure to be invited onto your shows, I guess it is. And I love that, and I love the fact that you're out there helping people get through all this stuff, because it really does matter and makes a difference in this world.
Yeah, as with you. Thanks, Dave. We'll have you back again in the future.
All right. Thanks, Dominic.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Well. Thanks, Dave, for joining us on the show. I appreciate your insights. And it is important to understand all these different elements that you brought to us today, especially when you're building a business, whether it's a family business or whether you want to hand it off or whether you're just trying to grow the business on your own. And your insights are really helpful. The perspective you bring, coming from your systems background, obviously with your military background, and then also from the modular building industry, are really unique. And I want everybody here to listen to that, because we can add those elements of predictability to our own business as well. It made me think that some of the tools that we talk about here that you may not have had a chance to get from me yet would really help if your mind is open to that right now. One of them is the Family Business Handoff Checklist. It's a really cool checklist tool that you can use if you've got a family business and you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to make sure this business is ready to hand it off to the next generation of your family. If you want that, send me a text. You guys know my cell phone number. The other one that I thought would be important is the blind spots assessment. It is just a no holds barred look. It's all fact-based. You just answer it yourself, figure out where you are as a company and what you could be doing differently and what you're already doing great. But when you figure out what you're doing great and what you want to do differently, you can sort of put a priority order in place. Like all of these assessments, it's meant to be a self-assessment. You can do it on your own. You don't need anybody looking over your shoulder. Now, if there's 2 of you in a company or 3 of you as partners in a company, each of you can do your own version of the assessment and then pass it around the room and have a look at it. It's a great way to start the conversation about where the company is today and where you want to take it in the future. Now, before I let you know how to contact, because you're just going to text me and ask for either of those things, you just say blind spots or Family Business Handoff Checklist. I want to say thanks to everybody. The the amount of water we're donating is incredible. And this is going to be donated on your behalf. We're up to 265 gallons of water now going to be donated, which is pretty cool. And again, it's for this community that lives next to a dump in Nicaragua. They sift through the dump for food, clothing, everything. And so I decided that that's the place we're going to put our efforts. So every time you leave a like or a comment on an episode, you can do that on this episode if you like, that adds up. So I thought to myself, what does 265 gallons of water look like if you can't visualize it? Well, it's a 7-foot long by 2-foot wide tank, if you had a fish tank that big, but it's also the same as 88 3-gallon tubs of ice cream, or 1,000 people getting a triple scoop ice cream cone. Imagine that. So it's just a ton. So thank you. You're having an impact on the world. It is going to be a massive impact to people that you and I are probably not going to meet. But it's a way to do good and pass it forward. So I think that's great. So every time you leave a like or a comment, whether on YouTube or whether on iTunes, you're doing a huge favor and putting something else out good in the world. Listen, if you want the blind spots self-assessment, or you want the family business handoff checklist assessment, like I said, send me a text message and just say that, and then I'll know which one to send to you. Here's my cell phone number, 315-903-7853. It's as easy as that, and we'll send it right off.